So Mary Ann's living her life with this man, Joseph, when out of nowhere, she's contacted by an old childhood friend named Margaret Cotton. I guess they go way back, okay? They're old friends. Margaret shared that her brother, Frederick, had recently lost his wife and his 2 children to some kind of disease, okay? And he was really struggling, like raising the rest of his kids and just being on his own, right? So Margaret asked if Mary could essentially be like a nurse for the family. Mary Ann's like, yes, my specialty. She accepts this lovely offer to help out the Cotton family. So Mary gets there. She's helping out her friend Margaret and Margaret's brother Frederick to raise the children, keep the place clean, just be helping hands. Naturally, while being there, Mary starts learning some interesting things about the family. For example, Margaret reveals that she is the beneficiary of Frederick, her brother's, big life insurance policy. I mean, she's helping raise the kids. That's her brother. It makes sense. So Mary Ann is like, oh, that's interesting. That's crazy. Wow, that's crazy. And then, weirdly enough, just a few months later, Margaret dies. My God, this woman, like, jeez. So Frederick, grieving the loss of his wife and children, now his sister. He just wants some comfort. He wants a hug. So he turns to Mary Ann for comfort. And then soon after, Mary Ann had some very exciting news. She's with child. So Mary Ann is getting closer to Frederick Cotton while she helps take care of his family. And then her gorilla grip pussy strikes again. On September 17th, 1870, Mary Ann and Frederick, they got married. And I know what you're thinking, Bailey, what's your favorite color? I don't know. What about her other husbands? Wasn't she married before? Yes, she was. She didn't care. You see, if you move to a different city, the marriage doesn't follow in her mind. She's like, it doesn't count. It's only valid in that place. Yeah. She essentially was committing bigamy, which is like marrying someone while you're still legally married to someone else. Yeah, you can't do that, but obviously no one's really looking into her. In February of 1871, she gave birth to a son named Robert. But this time, things were kind of different. Because before, no one really questioned her, what she was doing, whatever. But all of a sudden, people were like, this Mary woman, something is not right. For one, she gave birth just a few months after she got married. People are like, I know how to do math. Barely. But it ain't adding up, But it didn't matter what people thought, Frederick was like, this is my woman. Shut up. On September 2nd, 1871, Mary's new husband, Frederick, suddenly dropped dead. He died of the symptoms that seemed to strike everyone else at the time. Diarrhea, stomach pain, fever. It was a death sentence. You got diarrhea and you're like, this is it. Damn it got me, diarrhea. So after Frederick dies, it's now just Mary and 3 children living in Frederick's home. Now that she's available, she picks up the phone and she calls her previous lover, Joseph Natras. She's like, hey, remember me? Hey, that's so funny, it's crazy. So you should come over sometime. So Mary Ann had convinced Joseph to come and stay and live with her in Frederick's home with the kids. So when Joseph gets there, she ends up convincing him to change or update his will so that she would be the main beneficiary. Because she's got that gorilla grip pussy, he's like, baby girl, listen, I'll do it for you. I'll change the will. So then in March of 1872, 2 of Frederick and Mary Ann's children both passed away after a, quote, quick and violent illness. And then just days later, it got Joseph. He ended up passing away from the same thing. All 3 of them had died within just 22 days of each other. It happened so fast that Joseph actually died while the bodies of Mary Ann's kids were still in the house. There hadn't even been time to bury them yet. By July of 1872, the only person left standing in Mary Ann's life was Frederick's son, Charles Edward Cotton. Charles had miraculously survived whatever illness had taken over that household. So Mary, once again, has lost everyone except for her one child, Charles. I don't know if you've noticed yet, but she doesn't seem to really like to take care of kids, okay? So she has this kid, Charles, and she's like, I don't know what to do with him. I don't want him. So she's trying to pawn him off onto family members, and they're like, no. So she goes to this man in town. His name is Thomas Riley. She goes to him and she's complaining about Charles. I guess she was just like complaining, wishing that Charles could just move out of the house and be committed to a place called a workhouse that Thomas actually ran. Now, a workhouse is where you would go if you were homeless and literally had nowhere else to go, and you would just work in return for room and board. So she's like, oh my God, that's crazy you run one of those, because, you know, it'd be cool if my kid could go there. Yeah, kind of just like, I'm not gonna ask. Thomas asked Mary, like, why do you want to send your kid here, you know? Well, Mary came up with some excuse about she's trying to rent her place out and renters were not wanting to board at her home if like any kids lived there. That's what she told him. But the hot gossip was that Mary was actually like in a relationship with like another rich man named John. And it's believed that she just needs to get rid of this kid. You know what I'm saying? Well, this Thomas guy, he actually was like, oh, this isn't like, something's not right. You know, he had a little like, boop, something ain't right. Mary Ann asking him to take Charles was essentially like giving up your stepchild to an orphanage after you found a new man. Thomas said he couldn't accept Charles into the workhouse. And then he asked if she was getting married to her rumored lover, John. And Mary Ann replied, quote, I wish I could speak their language because I'm sure this made sense, but as it's coming out of my mouth, it feels so wrong. Perhaps it might be so, but the boy is in the way, but he will go on like the rest. So listen, Mary Ann was essentially telling this guy, like, look, my boy, he's gonna die like the rest of them, so take him. Thomas said, nonsense. He appears to be a very healthy little fellow. Thomas remembered this, okay? He's like, it's kind of weird that she's trying to like shove her kid on me, but okay. On July 12, 1872, just 6 days after this conversation, Charles suddenly died. It was reported that he died of natural causes. But as soon as Thomas heard this, he was like, no. He ends up going to the coroner and tells him that there is no way this kid died naturally. So Thomas goes to the authorities and tells them about the conversation he had with Mary Ann. He was like, this bitch is weird, something is up. Even before the police started like making moves, people around town were talking. People are like, dude, this woman is a murderer. She's shady. Watch out for her. Something's up with her. Mary gets wind of this, and rather than defend herself, she ends up packing up her stuff. She sold what she could, and then she got the hell out of town. So she ends up burying Charles, and then she's getting ready to skip town. But little did she know that the coroner secretly kept Charles's stomach contents before he buried him, you know, so he could test the stomach contents. When the coroner's test results for Charles came back in, it was discovered that Charles didn't die of natural causes. Nay, he was poisoned with arsenic. And after Thomas's statement, the only suspect was Mary Ann.